Welcome back to our fourth installment of Tools for Blended Learning, where we're going to talk about three things today. A couple of things probably you're already familiar with, but I want to talk about them in the light of blended learning specifically, and then a new product out that's free that I think you'll enjoy. So let's talk about tools for learning. One of the first things that I always talk about when I talk to teachers about how to organize themselves online is to talk about Symbaloo. Now, I recommend that you go to edu.symbaloo.com and set up an educator account. But Symbaloo is a way for you to organize materials for students that you can continue to change and move around and automatically update for their use. We'll talk about how that works as we go through Symbaloo. The other is we're going to look at just a couple of quick features in Canvas that you may or may not already be using, but that will come in very handy for blended learning type classes. As you know, I'm not a big Canvas fan, but as long as we have it, let's use it, and let's use it to its fullest potential. And I think that these things are probably well worth the time. And then last of all, we're going to talk about a new online tool called Quizzes. I love it when Web 3.0 people don't know how to spell. But if you are familiar with Kahoot, and some of you I know are, you're using Kahoot in the classroom, we'll talk about Quizzes as sort of a substitute for Kahoot in a blended learning environment. It does one thing that Kahoot does not do at this point. And I think that will make it easier for it to be a tool for you to use to engage students and get some feedback. So I'm going to get out of the screen. I'm going to go into my web browser and let's look at ways to use these three tools. So this is my home page, and because I use Chrome and I'm signed into Chrome using my Gmail account, any computer that I go to and sign into Chrome as a web browser brings up all of my settings wherever I'm at. So no matter what computer I'm on, this will be my home screen as long as I'm using the Chrome browser. And we've talked about Symbaloo before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but just as a reminder, this is only a repository of information. So if you have websites, multiple websites your students need to access for your class, and you want to put them all in a place that you can group them easily together and that students can get to easily, they can use the Symbaloo app on their iPad, or they can create their own Symbaloo account and pull these things into their account on a browser if they have a Mac Air. And so one of the things that it does is that it allows you to put things in and then update them periodically, and as long as the students will come up and just hit this little refresh button right over here, then whatever is new will automatically pop back up into their browser and they have all the new things that you've added. So you don't have to put the whole semester out there at one time, although you might be ready for that. You'll notice across the top I have several tabs, and these are different Symbaloo web mixes that I have either pulled in from other people or that I have created myself. And so you'll see several of them here. This is one that I pulled in from somewhere else. Somebody did a presentation on 60 web apps in 60 minutes. That seems to be a fun title for conferences. And then this is one that I put together on using apps to do photography and editing and things, and I've shared this out at different things. So once you have a Symbaloo account, you can have several different kinds of tiles and web pages put together. If I wanted to, I'll come back here. If I wanted, you'll see I've got down here at the bottom, I have a whole row with nothing in it. And so to add something, it's just a matter of clicking the add button and coming up here. If it's a well-known site, you might search for a title. Like if I searched for Google Docs, maybe, I could pull in a tile that's already created. So let's just pull that title in. And then if I click it, it's automatically going to take me to my Google Docs page. and allow me to work from there. So it is a way to use Symbaloo to automatically put things in. So if you've got sites that students need to log into and they're on their own device, they could log into that through that tile and stay logged in on their computer so that whenever they click that tile, they're just automatically in the program. If I want to get rid of this tile, I just come up here where it says remove at the top. I just grab that and I drag it right up here to remove, and it's gone. If I wanted to share this with students, I click the share button, and this would give me over here my webmix details. This is a link that I could use to share it, and I could send that link to students and say pull this into your Symbaloo account. I can also update the webmix so that once I've updated it myself, then it updates automatically for everybody else. So Symbaloo is a great tool to use not only for your own personal benefit of organizing websites that you use a lot, but also of organizing materials that you're going to use for your students. It could come down to a single Google Doc that you have that you want students to read, or a PDF file that you want them to read that's been stored in Google Drive or Dropbox or somewhere else. Make a tile for that. They've automatically got access to that document. Not only that, but you can also create a tile that takes them to another webmix. So the tile could go to, I could have a tile here that takes me to, let's do the high school apps. So here's a webmix of things for high school, a lot of math and science stuff. And so I could have a tile over here that would actually take me to that webmix. And I could have thousands and thousands and thousands of websites already put together for students. And one of the things it eliminates is it eliminates students going out and randomly finding things online that are not acceptable for use in your classroom. Maybe they're not legitimate, maybe they're not reliable. This will help sort of refine students' use, and it's visual, and that helps a lot of students as well. So Symbaloo is one of those things. Again, go to edu.symbaloo.com to set up your account. That way you're in the education area. The other thing that you can do, of course, is to come in and say, okay, and well, by the way, let me just click on my menu over here on the left. These are all of the pages that I have. And so if I wanted to add a web mix, I could start a new one down here. Or I can search the gallery, and this is the Symbaloo gallery of where people have already created other Symbaloo documents that maybe I want to pull from. I don't want to go out and do a lot of stuff myself. So let's just type in, well, let's get rid of Symbaloo. Let's type in the word math. And so I have all of these things that come up. You'll see here I have 43,000 Symbaloo pages that have math. And so I want only the kind that use tiles, and I want only the kinds that are rated 5-star, and I want only the kind that have been downloaded at least by 1,000 to 4,000 people. And I click search again, and now I'm down to 40. And so you'll see here I have a Symbaloo page here of math apps. There are 2,700 people using this, and they've given it a 5-star rating. It's probably good. It's a good place to go start my search. So I can sort of narrow that down and go see what's out there. So that's Symbaloo. So let's take a short break, and we'll come back with a couple of things in Canvas. All right, so this is a view you're probably very familiar with at this point, and that is your Canvas login page. So I just want to show you a couple of things in case you're fairly new to Canvas and you're not really sure how to use some of the things in here. I'm not going to actually create anything here. I'm going to tell you how to go find out how to do that, and then I'm going to let you create it. So the first place to go, of course, is up here to Help. Over in the far right corner, just click on Help, and no matter what account you have, you're going to get access to these things. And I'm going to click on Search the Canvas Guides. Now, because you're an instructor, there is an instructor guide set up specifically for you. So I'm going to start there. And so you come up with these kinds of things over here that will tell you how to use the various tools in Canvas. There's one thing in particular that I want to look at that is specifically good for blended learning. You may already be using it, but if you're fairly new to Canvas, you may not have branched out this far yet, and that is under discussions. We're constantly looking for ways to create back channels for students, and people are using things like Today's Meet or Padlet or other kinds of things that students can use for discussion. The difficulty with those type things, especially with Today's Meet, well, which I like, if I am the 17th student to respond, I can see everybody else's response before I respond. I just copy somebody. I can be lazy that way. If you're familiar with things like Blackboard and some others you might have used in your college classes, you have probably used discussions. So what it does is that it sets up a place for you to ask questions of students and for them to respond and talk to one another in ways that make sense. It allows you to see everything easily from within Canvas, and you can set this up for the entire class, or you could set it up to just do as a discussion for a small group. So, for instance, I'm working on some lesson plans for a PBL for STEM 2 and 3, detailing ways students got to look at scheduling. And in that, we could set up a group for people who are, all of the people who've been assigned to be English department chairs, and just those students, and do that across classes, and be able to have a discussion there with just among those students with specific questions for that group. So in your blended learning class, one of the things that you're going to want to do is try to emphasize collaboration among students. And one of the ways to do that, of course, is to create small groups in Canvas in your assignments, and to have those students working together. Even though they may not be together in a physical room, they can work together online. You could set up a Google Doc for them to work in. You could set up a Google spreadsheet for them to work in. And Google Drive integrates seamlessly into Canvas. And everybody here, including all of our students, can access Google Drive with their student email account. And we'll give you some instructions again on how to make that happen if that's what you want to do. The other way to do that, of course, is to put a discussion in Canvas where you can set up specific questions for students to answer. And one of the things that you have to think about, and I'm a big user of Google Docs for this kind of collaboration, but I can have a student who gets mad at another student and deletes their comments or deletes their work, and I may never know it was there. So what I like about the discussions in Canvas is it allows for those students to make comments, but they can't touch anything else anybody else has said. And so they can not only respond to the question, but they can respond to each other as they go along. So discussions are a good thing to add. The other thing too is, and you'll see here that we've got a lot of different things. E-portfolios is another area. We've talked about this. How to create portfolios for students, and Canvas offers a way to do that, and it's something for you to think about. In case you want to collect student work over time, this might be a good place to start. And then, of course, the external apps are here. I'm just going to scroll down because I wanted to look specifically at groups. Groups are a way for you to keep track of what students are doing in the groups that you assign them. So if you're concerned that one student is doing more than another student, or if that is a complaint of the people in your group, if you create a group, a small group within your class for these students to work together, then you have a record of what everybody has done. You have a place to bring together the work that they've contributed themselves. And it's something separate and apart from everybody else in the classroom. So if you have one group that is researching a particular topic and another group of 4 or 5 kids researching a totally different topic, you can differentiate those by creating these groups in Canvas. So these are just some of the things that you can think about. The other thing that I would look at, if you've not used modules before, and I'll stop here because I could go on and on about things that Canvas could do that might help you with blended learning. But if you've not used modules before, the nice thing about modules is if you set up 6 modules for your class, where each module is sort of a unit of information, you can set that up so that Module 2 does not open for a student until they have completed all the work in Module 1. And that way you don't have students skipping around doing stuff ahead of time. They're all working sort of in a pattern, but they also have the ability to work at their own pace. One of the things that you're going to need to think about as you set up your blended classes, if you're one of the teachers that are doing that, is, do I want all of my students to work on the same thing at the same time? Do I want it to open on Sunday night and close on Sunday night, and once it's closed, it's closed? Or do I want to open this up and let students work at their own pace, and if they get done early and they're finished before the class is over, do I have some other things I can let them do that will, because obviously it's something they're interested in and they've been engaged in the topic. Do I have other things out there at the end that they can work on? You can do all of that inside Canvas. So that's just sort of a brief introduction for you to want to dive back into Canvas and look at. And so we're going to take, again, a short break, and we'll come back and we'll look at quizzes. So Quizzes is a fairly new site. It's new to me, at least. I was familiar with Kahoot, even though I have not really had an opportunity to use it much. I have participated in it from a student standpoint. So let me just sort of, if you're not familiar with either one of these sites, let me just sort of explain to you what they do. Sometimes it's really difficult for me to put that coffee down and keep talking. So both of these things allow you to create quizzes that students can take online. They both allow you to open the quiz up and allow students in the classroom to take the quiz from any device, whether their phone, their iPad, their computer, or whatever. There is no app for either one. It's all web browser based, so it works on any device. You create a quiz. It gives you a number for students to use to log into that quiz. You give them the number. They go to a link. It's a very simple link. In this case, it's join.quizzes.com. And they type in that number. They enter your quiz. And in the classroom, you can create this so that all the kids log in at one time. And there is a leaderboard. So you can time the questions. And I think the default for each of them is 30 seconds. And so in that 30 seconds, they get more points the faster they can answer the question correctly. And so it's a competition. It's a game-based sort of quizzing opportunity. And so the kids who are faster can gain more points. They wind up higher on the leaderboard. Kids who are slower can still get points, but maybe they're not as high. And if they don't answer the question, or if they get the question wrong, they don't get any points. Now, in Kahoot, it has to be played in the class live the first time you play it. There is a ghost feature you can use secondarily where students can log in on their own and go back in and compete against themselves to see if they can do better the second time around. What I like about quizzes is that it has an option up front to allow you to set how long the quiz is going to stay open. And then students can log in anytime they want to and take the quiz. There's still a leaderboard based on how fast they answer the questions. So it's still game-based. So let's take a look. I've already created an account, so when I click Get Started, it automatically logs me in. And if I want to create a quiz, it's just this easy. So I'm going to create a quiz. And I'm going to name my quiz. And the quiz is going to be named Blended Learning PD02 because I've already created one earlier. It's in English, but I can choose any number of languages for it to be in. And I'm going to set it to private because I don't want anybody to have access to this code except the teachers in this blended learning group. And so it's done. So I'm going to add a question, and I'm going to say, what was the tool Mr. Childers talked about that would allow you to record video during class and follow you around the room? And so here are my options. One was we talked about a glyph. We talked about Camtasia. We talked about swivel. We talked about Zaption as possible tools. And so here's my question. You see how easy that was. In this case, this is the correct answer. So now it has a way for it to track who has the correct answer. If I want to add a new, you'll see up here the time is set for 30 seconds. I can change that depending on how difficult the question is. I can change it. I can create a new question, and the new question is, what was the tool Mr. Childers is using to host the videos for this blended learning PD? And so we talked about Glyph, we talked about Camtasia, we talked about Swivel, and we talked about Zaption. And the program that I'm using, of course, is Zaption. Now, I could create as many questions as I want. The beauty of this is, because this is going to be take it at your own pace, it's going to do two things automatically when this quiz is posted. It's going to randomize the questions, and it's going to randomize the possible answers, so that no two students are going to have the same quiz to take. So they can't say to each other, hey, number 3 was B, because number 3 may be number 5, and it may be D this time around. Now, I don't recommend quizzes or Kahoot for any type of graded assignments, but I do think that they're really good to look at formative type assessments to get a feel for where students are. You could use this before you start a unit and ask questions that's going to be talked about in the unit and figure out what students already know. Or you could use it at the end of a unit to see if students have where they've mastered the information and where they're still lacking, so it could help you know where to go back and reteach. But it is sort of a formative assessment in that way. I would not use it as a graded requirement, because kids are too involved trying to be the first. They're going to make silly mistakes as they go along. So once I have finished my quiz, I'm just going to click finish, and it's going to ask me for the subject this is professional development. I don't really want to add any topics or tags, and so I'm going to finish, and it's going to make me, okay, so we're going to do high school. I don't have to add tags. I'm going to finish and create the quiz. And so here are my possibilities. I can play the quiz live in class, or I can assign it as homework. And homework is what I would use for the blended learning class. I will say this while I'm on this screen. You'll notice right underneath there is one that says duplicate. If you've already used the quiz and you have results and you want to go back in and edit the quiz, you will lose all of your results. It's going to start over from scratch. So I recommend that you duplicate the quiz and then edit it and rename it and use that. I've used quizzes before where I had a misspelled word that drove me crazy, or those kinds of things. I want to make a change. I would do it that way. So if I assign it as homework, I can set it to say, all right, I want this to be completed by the 30th of January or whatever, and I want it to be completed by 11:30 p.m. A lot of us are using midnight as a cutoff time, and I would just, out of results of parent conferences, I would say let's bump that up and make it 11 at night instead of midnight, for two reasons. One, because some kids are waiting that late, and the other is their clock may say midnight, but Canvas may say it's 12:03. And so if you put it at 11 o'clock, kids are going to get done a little earlier in the evening, and there's less chance to say, well, you just missed it. And so if I proceed then, well, I'm going to go back. Here's my question settings. I can jumble the questions. I can jumble the answers. I can put up short answers after the questions, and I can show a quiz review if I want to do that. Now I can also just click here and turn these off if I don't want those. I do want to show a leaderboard. I do want the questions to be timed. Showing the memes is kind of fun, and playing music is also kind of fun. So I'm going to proceed. So here's my code. So I'm just going to copy that code, and I'm going to go over here to join.quizzes.com. This is the website that students would go to, and it's going to ask them for the code. So here is the, I think, the 5-digit code. No. There we go. And so I've already entered my name because I've been on here before, and I'm going to join the game. You'll hear that it's playing some music. I think you can hear that through my microphone here. There's only one player online at the time. I'm going to start. And so here's my first question. What was the tool Mr. Childers is using to host the videos for this blended learning PD? Well, the tool that I'm using, notice that was the second question I created, and it was the fourth answer, but it's randomized everything. Okay, so here's the meme that pops up. And then it's going to take me to the second question. What was the tool Mr. Childers talked about? And I'm going to answer this one incorrectly. And you'll see that I got 0 points, and a new meme comes up. It's still playing some music, and then it's going to take me to my results. So that in a nutshell is what Quizzes looks like and does. Now, if I want to come over here to my reports, I created a quiz to put online on Facebook. How well do you know Mr. Childers? And I had 70 friends that answered this. They don't know anything about me. I think that these first 2 or 3 that got everything correct, I'll look at players in a minute. I think they're my kids, but I'm not really sure. So this is one of the limitations, and I've sent a request into Quizzes to see when this might be added to their support. One of the limitations is this will tell me, here's the first question: in what year was Mr. Childers born? 20 students answered correctly, 50 students answered incorrectly. So if I had been teaching them about the year that Mr. Childers was born, there's a lot of them evidently that got it wrong. If I click here, it will show me every student who answered and what they answered. What it won't do, and what I wish it would do, is give me a snapshot of 40 people chose A, 6 people chose B, and so forth. And those of you that are Kahoot users, Kahoot may do that, I don't remember. But it is a limitation, so I point that out up front, because I think that would be a really great thing to know right up front is what distractor worked the best. Where did they go wrong? I can figure that out here, but it's not as easy. So if I click it again, it comes back up. So here were all of my questions. I can also look by player. So if I want to see, here's somebody who got it correct. I told them they didn't have to use their correct name. And so you can see that they got everything correct. If I come down here, to somebody who missed one, I can quickly see which one did this student miss. And I might be able to help that student respond back individually. So this is what Quizzes does. And again, for blended learning, the thing that it does that I really like is it allows you to sign it in a homework mode so that students can take it anytime they want. You can still turn a shut-off date, make sure you post that in the assignment that you give, but it would give your students an opportunity to sort of be game-based in what they're doing and allow them to sort of have fun in answering the questions that you give them. So we've looked at Symbaloo, we've looked at a couple of things quickly in Canvas, and we've looked at Quizzes. There are hundreds of programs out there that you can use to make blended learning more effective for your class. And I highly recommend that as you run across those, that you share them with everybody else. Obviously, I didn't want to make a 6-hour video. So there are some assignments to do at the end of this, and we'll give you a time when it's all over.